I'm not sure why they do that. It might be not enough features or something. I don't understand it, because I don't understand it, I have opinions on you should be using the default one. I think the default one, it has limitations. I think the Gateway API, which is coming out very soon, Gateway API is replacing the current way we do Ingress. I think once Gateway API happens, then everybody will be using Gateway API everywhere, and you won't have all of the split. But sorry, that's a bit of a tangent. So we can install Courier so we can bring the traffic in. Cool. And then why not make it the default? So let's do that. Also going to make sure that I don't have notifications on. That's probably good. And now we're down to the serving default domain. I'm just going to jump in and edit this so that, where is it? Yep. So a thing with your services is when your services come up, you of course are running them, you're giving them a name, like you'd run a deployment and call it my cool thing, and then you'd put in a namespace, which would be my cool namespace. And so if that's what you're doing, then with Knative, how it's going to deploy it is my cool deployment dot my cool namespace dot base domain, and you can have base domain as anything. So it's going to map the DNS like that, which means that for me, I need to do bobmcbobs.pair.sharing.io as my base domain, and then that way it will put my service at the start of it, so then it takes it to the right place. So I'm just going to save this one and then hit apply so it goes to the right location. Let's check out all of our components though. Big cluster. All right. So Knative's running. We got the default domain stuff happening. Stackgrass is not in a good place. This is a database operator, which I think is a very good one. Let's just see what's going on. Okay, how did we deploy Stackgrass? Oh, this is a rendered. I am live. Oh, sweet.
Volume turned off.
I'm in high quality.
You are high quality. That's what I was checking.
Yeah, so this was from when I played around with Stackgrass, and I don't know why it's failing. Maybe it's just coming up now. Okay, so that means once wait restarts, oh, no, we're not winning. Once we can provision databases, will be cool. We'll come back to that. That'll do its thing, hopefully. But right now, we have... just before we try and deploy our first service, I need to check that the service for running... Yeah, we don't have an IP. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so the Ingress controller, the Nginx Ingress one, is not running on that IP. Yeah, just going to say, copy that. I wanted to delete it. Cool. And then now we should have those ports free. So then Go back up to here. So we're looking for courier system courier. I think I just ruined my copying right now. Copy. Cool.
Feel free to ask questions at any point, Kirk. We're actually here, and I want you to feel it's not a broadcast medium.
Fair enough.
Cool, that worked. And then should have Ingress traffic now. That doesn't do it. That does it. Sweet.
We have ingress.
So now,
How do we get there from here, Caleb?
fly our first service.
Woohoo!
So, what this is doing is we're saying Nginx Nginx stable, and we're running on port 80, and that's it. That's all we need to know. So then, let's get what's coming up, and right now, you can see that the pod is running, and the domain is not working. That's a fun one. What did I do wrong? What are we doing? Knative. Get config maps. And we're looking for config courier, I believe. Oh, maybe it failed to do the default service. Yeah, it hasn't completed default domain. Yeah, so that job hasn't completed.
There's a complaint about in-cluster config. Is there something because we're in cluster and then it's unhappy?
I don't think so. I think that's kubectl. Oh, I've gone magic.
A red herring.
Okay, so who likes the docs? I like the docs.
The health of any project is utterly dependent upon its documentation. Let's see how healthy
That's right.
Knative is today.
This is actually cool. We'll come back to that maybe. Custom domains are good, but I want to install it. And I want to go serving with YAML. I need to go to the bottom. And then right here is, so there's magic, but I actually want real DNS.
Grrr.
Okay, that's what we want. So if I just run this and then edit it, we should be good. Let me explain before I go.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, so there's a thing called the config domain, and that's what that pod that isn't completing running, this one right here, is trying to do. And I pointed the magic DNS, which I'd used for running locally, because this document is not intended to be run in a pair instance. This is meant to be, okay, you have local DNS, you're running completely locally on your computer, which is not great for the whole run the cloud everywhere, but that's just how I wrote this file.
Right.
However, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use a command like this. Let me make it bigger. What this is saying is add my custom domain as a key to the custom domain, so the config domain right there, and it just knows how to use it, which is sweet. So I'm going to paste this, and then I'm going to put in the domain.
kubectl patch, such a great tool to override the data of this config map.
Absolutely. So now, in theory, and there is a theory, when I
And
run
then?
this, sweet, okay, not great colors. Let me find yet another theme.
Dracula.
Who likes purple?
My favorite.
So, if I visit this, in theory it should work. And it doesn't. That's because the way DNS is configured or something.
That was a refuse to connect. Is it the no TCP running on that port on 80?
I'm going to go and dig.
Dig into that a bit more, Bob.
Yep, that's up. And that IP, so if I go, what's running on 80? Yeah, we're alive.
That is connection refused on 443, which is probably...
Yeah, well, is it? Yeah, it was trying 443, but we haven't configured any TLS because the world of using...
And then the browser kicked in because...
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just use curl on this computer. If your browser doesn't automatically redirect... Actually, no, I can do it. I just open it incognito. Ta-da!
And then, welcome to Nginx.
But really, that wasn't...
Insecurely.
That wasn't the greatest demo. And I'll show you why. Let me just move this one over here. And then, hello, local Emacs.
What is that OS you're using? It's such a beautiful user experience and interface.
Glad you asked. I'm using Fedora Silverblue, and the interface is called GNOME.
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 Nah, there we go. I know that one.
Yeah, either way, the foundation accepts either, and probably doesn't care. And neither do I.
As long as you're using it right, I think.
Yeah. So we're in the default namespace for running our thing. So we've actually got the thing running. Let's just give it about another 15 seconds. It will stay alive for 40 seconds by default unless you configure it otherwise, unless there's more requests coming, if that makes sense.
Yep. Here, well, for one moment, we'll spin it up, and then it's going to go down.
Yeah. There we go.
Terminating. After 45 seconds of aging. It's just
and you notice
instantaneous.
there's actually 2 pods. Isn't that interesting? Let me show
Why
you.
is that, Caleb?
What a fascinating question. Yeah, we'll just wait for it to go away.
Terminating the anticipation.
Well, that's
Is killing me.
While that's happening, I'm going to go to Linkerd Viz dashboard because we want to view what's happening in the land of the service mesh. And we're going to serve it on all ports so we get an ingress out of it. Sweet. And then if I go, oh no, that's not going to work because we don't have the ingress controller. But what will work is if I go this one, colon 5750. No, that's not going to do it. Okay, need to learn a thing about that.
It's a fun message.
Rewinding.
And fairly informative.
DNS protection, yep. Bind, enforce host. So I need to allow, I need to modify a thing real quick. And I don't know why I did that. Linkerd is edit deployment web. And then go down to, you don't need to do this. None of this is what you need to do. Getting it out for demo purposes. Cool.
Don't do this. Do not look behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the man.
Unless you feel like it, then go for your life, honestly. So yeah, I'm using it on a different port because I had to remove the ingress controller in order to use the one for Linkerd because you can't bring your own ingress controller. You have to use one of the supported ones because they don't support the default types of CIDs or the resource definitions.
Can we pause for just one moment?
Yeah.
I want to look at this URL where we've got an HTTP URL going into. Can you explain how port 507050 is going through link? Now it's already mapping back because it's working. I love that error message before because one of the things that's difficult when you're trying to figure out how to bring something up is where to go figure out how to fix it because usually it just says 500. I am broken.
Hey, 500 is a great number.
It's not
but
very
not
informative.
if you have to do web stuff.
I would encourage folks when they're deploying things like this, when there is a way of bringing things up where the message is super informative when you're developing. But if you were in production and to have that more verbose level of information available, it's a attack surface because it gains you more places to hold on to the things. So there's probably a way for Linkerd in its default state or the redirector to respond with, there is something, and there's a 500 error, and show a cute picture.
Yeah.
And please contact us because we could probably figure this out. I would love to know more about that at some point later. It's just a fun thing to see.
But side note, if you notice right now it says environment. If we go host name, we're actually running inside of this pod, and so whenever we listen to any port that's on all interfaces, it will create a service with the port. So you see right here, that's how we're able to access it. Linking from this container, because we're running the binary inside of this container, and then it will create a service matching the IPs provided to the box, and then it will also create an ingress if it's not a UDP service. So that means because there's also full DNS and full TLS, we get all of that, providing you haven't modified it like I did, and we don't get TLS anymore because of the way it works. But we can wedge that in later if we want to modify.
Really digging Linkerd. That's just pretty cool tech.
So I'm going to bring Linkerd back up again, and I'm just going to go show URL. I think that's what it is. So then it won't give those scary errors. Yeah, that's nice. So Linkerd is back up. Problem I've just noticed, we haven't annotated inject on default. What does that mean? That means that we haven't...
Do tell us.
We haven't said that Linkerd can run stuff on the default namespace. I'm just going to go annotate namespace default. I don't know why this wasn't in my doc, but I'm going to say you can actually tap into services. Oh, no, I already did that. Yeah, that's why it was 2 containers. It is late in the day, and that is okay. And that is also a rhyme. Cool. You know what? I actually don't like this theme. I'm going to change it again. I'm a fan of Challenger Deep, but I don't know if it looks good.
Well, it does look really nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. So now, the demo that I was going to show is in the default namespace, there are no pods. Right?
What?
Everyone can see that? That's pretty cool. No pods. No pods are great.
This is a really clean install of Kubernetes. There's usually things just like all over the place in default.
Until you see all the namespace.
There's things behind the curtain you can't see, folks.
Is good practice not to ever use default?
Yes.
Or does it depend what you're doing?
I would never use default, but I'm using default in this case for demonstration purposes.
It assumes that, because you need to be declarative and precise, and if it's falling through to default, then there's probably not been some isolation planning in your deployment.
Yeah, if you're actually putting all of your things in the default namespace, maybe reconsider your choices. Like, really carefully.
Your choices.
Just really carefully.
Reconsider your life choices.
Part of it is isolation. When you put stuff into a namespace, all the pods within that namespace can, on some of the default networking mechanisms, actually reach each other. And when you have more secure networking policies, pods within different namespaces don't have direct access to other pods that don't have exposed services. So the only way to actually reach these isolated service pods is to create an intentionally exposed namespace service.
Yep. Okay. Through that you can put network policies, and you can limit pods communicating through labels and namespaces. And you can also, if you really know what you're doing, stop them from even doing DNS between each other. Which
snap.
I've definitely looked into it. I haven't implemented it before though. So what's really cool is there's nothing running in the default namespace right now. This is where our service will come up. And you see my domain right here. We're hitting nginx.default. So nginx is because that's what we called our service. Default because our namespace, and the rest of it because that's what I told it. And as soon as I hit it, you don't want to miss this one. soon as I hit it, pods start
pending momentarily.
And then
That took no time at all, really.
And if I refresh it again,
imagine if this type of stuff was configured for a service provider that's making websites. Then all of a sudden, their deployments of these things could be, there's no infrastructure provision at all for all the websites that they charge money for.
Yeah.
Did I say zero cost, but they're
there?
still charging their code? Yes, there's a lot of those who have a website. Nobody visits it during the month. Oh, let's just hit it once to make sure it's up because we want to make sure our bill is being paid. That's bringing services. And you only pay for how many seconds does this stay up?
40 seconds by default if it's a single request. So so you hit it at the first point, it comes up, stays up for 40 seconds until it's not visited. But see right here, since it is running really quick, let me just refresh it so it restarts that 40 seconds. So you see
So is
right
that
here.
knative that's doing that?
What's that, sorry, Kirk?
Is that knative or is that Linkerd?
Knative is the thing that is scaling it down. But Linkerd is the thing that we're using for observability.
Yeah.
And so right here, my service Nginx is running in the default namespace. I'm going to click default. See right here. And you see, okay, we have deployment, Nginx, many zeros. We got the first time we deployed a version of this. And then I can go into this. And then I can see all of the things that it's communicating to. Hey, look, there's an autoscaler. There's live metrics. So if I hit refresh, you can see, okay, someone hit root. I can jump into the things there. I can see all of the kinds of metrics. What's the bit rate? The failure rate is pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, and you can do all kinds of things. You can view all of the deployments in a given namespace. I could say, show me, because I care about, so I care about the health of Linkerd. Oh, this is just annoying.
What's happening?
It's going away when the thing slides. Because I care about the health of Linkerd itself, I might want to see how Linkerd itself is linked in to the servicing. And yeah, you can do all of that. Even traffic
can I do
splitting
anything
through
with its
SMI.
metrics?
What's that, sorry?
You seen its metrics anywhere?
Yeah, great question. So I can go back into default. Let me just refresh so it doesn't kill it. Okay, so now I'm inside of my thing. To come back up. Is it because I'm zoomed in? Where is it? I'm not sure. There's built-in Grafana to this. There's normally a button. What happened?
Is it scrolled over to the right? No.
So there's normally a button on the side here. It might be the version of Linkerd where something might have gone wrong with the install. But what I can do is type in Grafana. It is integrated, and it's not running.
One moment, please.
Pretty told.
Maybe it's a service integration for mapping the URL there under Linkerd.
Viz install. Then let's go Linkerd viz install help. And okay, I want Grafana. That's so random. Technology, eh? Never works. It's simply not true.
That's not what I want to hear coming from you. But yes, I feel you.
Technology. Why don't we hit that with the viz upgrade to kubectl apply. I'm not getting command right. just do an install again. Grafana dashboard created. From the other time.
So the Grafana dashboard thing, is that feeding, does it feed, Linkerd feeds straight to Grafana?
There's Prometheus
Which is the
deployed, so
agent.
that Prometheus is the thing that's collecting it, and then
Okay.
yeah, that is so weird.
Yeah, I need to hurry up and do some Prometheus so I can tick that box.
Yeah, Prometheus is pretty good. I would call it as the best de facto time series database for all of your metrics that you could ever want to collect. Grafana.
I was about to say, tying together the time series database with the Grafana and the Grafana allows you to do some really beautiful things. And we're about to see that in a moment here as Caleb ties these things together.
Oh, that's the other thing that you guys would probably love to see.
What's that?
I just thought of a thing that I did that I haven't told you about
Oh, yeah.
using Grafana. A Raspberry Pi PK,
Those are cool. Those are really
and
cool.
some LiDAR sensors.
Nice.
Yeah, on-stack metrics. Latest version. Yeah, a Grafana instance. I literally have this running on my cluster at home using the same commands.
I feel like this Prometheus Grafana Linkerd connection is something we should probably have on all of our, by default, on our things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go create a ticket.
I'm gonna be adding it to pair, and Zach also agrees with me on that one. There are some places where you don't want it, or you need to modify the thing that you're trying to run. If you have a job that comes up and immediately makes a HTTP request, you need to modify your service a little bit if you're opting into Grafana. Other than that, you don't actually need to change anything, which is quite nice. I'm also going to check if StackRest has come up. Hopefully it has. No.
Can I assign you a ticket? So I'm creating a separate ticket for our paired share environment where we work together and do all the things. Because when we discover new and cool technologies that help us pair together and work on things, sharing.io/pair. When I learn to hit more buttons, we'll learn to share more screens at once. Not worth distracting us today.
Just gonna redo the StackRest deployment so I can show you what an app that I personally deploy in production looks like if it's running with this perfect stack. It's not perfect. Perfect enough.
Stack.
Yeah, so I just went to the wrong thing. I'm going to 20. I think it's coming from Kirk. Yep.
Yeah, hang on, I'm just trying to. Here we go.
Oh, really? The same.
Just trying to put it
Like a Pavlovian dog trained when that pitch goes off. Check the fridge.
Check the fridge.
So now we've just rendered out the latest manifest for it. It might have changed it. It should have. So W0 to change windows if I'm lazy, but not lazy at the same time. Yep. Cool.
Try to change my microphone.
Procrastination optimized.
Yeah. Right, let's try and get StackRest again. Creating. Good sign. But our problem is with Viz. Do you want to... Should I continue with trying to get Grafana? Because it is cool.
Oh, whatever. Can you still hear me alright?
What's that, sorry, Kirk?
Can you still hear me alright, or am I quiet?
If you could talk like slightly closer to the mic, then that would be just that bit better.
Sure, I can get much closer, but I think it's turning itself up.
Okay, so I know I just checked what versions of Linkerd things are, but I literally forgot. So I'm gonna do it one
Yeah, so you don't have to keep getting it going. It's fine. I believe you.
version. Okay, so I'm running at home. I'm running a version slightly older. Let me just try and do that real quick. What do I call it? 3. And then install. Yeah, it's not really giving me any help here. Linkerd viz install verbose. That's not what I said. Verbose. Manifest. Dashboards. All of the things. Verbose was not helpful. There's no new things. And templates, Grafana. I'm seeing.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get a little light better.
Just dropped the cup. I'm seeing notes about stop shipping Grafana-based image. What's this about? Did they cut out Grafana? That's what this looks like.
It looks like. Go to that message, line 12 there. That looks like Grafana. The big delete there.
Huh.
This makes me sad.
Instead, we'll recommend using.
What did they put in its place? Because there was an ad just there as well.
Very interesting. I actually found it very good and convenient to provide all of those. That makes me sad. Yeah. So flag has been removed. That has been moved.
It's just been moved, right? Instead, we're going to recommend you to install Grafana on your own. And we have provided your driver YAML. See the values.yaml there? And the Grafana values are provided under Linkerd dashboards. It's probably a culture change in the Grafana community to say let us distribute Grafana, and we will be Grafana authoritatively, and then provide us your config map.
Yeah. I wonder if this has come back up.
It would be hard as a community if everybody was bringing up your software with their own distributions and trying to control the downstream. So I get this choice. My initial sadness was in user in, like getting started. And while this is the case, it's almost as if they could have provided with the same command the backwards compatible user experience to go ahead and prompt and say, we are actually going to do this for you, but warning, this is what we're doing. In order for it to ease the thing. We're going to figure this out fairly quickly, but you've got a fairly technical audience here.
So what I'm going to do is use their command that has been provided, which is add a Helm repo and install Grafana in a very particular way. I already do have Grafana installed, but I'm just going to install it again because...
what happens when you install it again? It's already there.
Is it adding it to the cluster, or is it adding it to local machine?
None of this is on my local machine. All of this is in a pair instance.
So is it installing Grafana on the peer instance, or is it installing it on the Kubernetes cluster?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Per instance is a Kubernetes cluster.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, so what happens if you install it multiple times?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Different namespace, different registrations. But
Can
yeah.
we tell where?
So that's installed in a namespace called Grafana.
Got it. Grafana/Grafana.
Yep. And I have Grafana, the other one, installed in Kube Prometheus.
Got it.
And so this one is the one that's configured for Linkerd, and then this is the one that's configured for.
And if I remember how Prometheus is to get this data, you configure your pieces of software to hit an ingress, basically to continue to load the time series data into the Prometheus database.
So there's multiple ways. So with Prometheus, you can either have it so that Prometheus polls your app, which is the default way that things do it, or you can make it so your app submits to Prometheus. Cool. Which might be good for your use case. Usually have it so it polls it. I know with my own projects that I've worked on and other ones in different places, I've just added a metrics endpoint, and then you advertise the metrics endpoint by annotating the service and ingress.
Right.
No, not the ingress, just the service.
Yep, and then
to say, hey Prometheus, my metrics are at /metrics on port number, and then now it just.
And there's some configuration within Prometheus to scan namespaces, like a list of namespaces, I'm guessing.
Just RBAC.
It's just, so it just scans everything it has access to without any configuration. That's cool.
Yeah, pretty much. And sweet, so we have Grafana now. So what I'm going to do is go try and access it. I wonder if this probably won't work, will it? I'm just going to go back to my. No, it doesn't work. That's fine. Oh, you know what? We're not dashboard.
Denied. That's kind of cool. That's the rebinding for explanation.
Yeah, that's what I want to play. So if I go into Grafana and edit the deployment, is this going to be the same case? No. I think what happened was when I edited, when I reinstalled Linkerd, yeah, it got rid of my fancy as edit. So I'm just gonna add back the coolest host name at the moment.
You can't get this in stores, man.
Wait till they do. Like, what will people think? You know. Sweet. So, web is gonna come up again, and I'm gonna run that the very fancy command of dashboard, please, and then it will become live again. Fancy. Okay. Well, it was worth a try. So now I'm gonna port forward Grafana manually by going port forward. Just kidding, I'm going to get the service first so I know what I'm doing. We're on port 80. So I'm going to go port forward service Grafana on, let's say, 8,000 to 80. And I'm also going to go address is all namespaces. Great, that's what I want. And then now, if I hit this one and go 8,000. Normally, again, I'd be hitting this from grafana.myhostname to access it over full HTTPS. But right now, because I'm demoing something that, okay.
Interesting. Grafana may do its own. There we are.
Okay.
Yep. And then.
All right, that's a fun one.
Slash? At the end?
Like that?
Sometimes it is the magic potion that will contain. Oh, I was wrong.
Okay.
It's the URL, right? Because it has.
Okay, well, let's just try 80 then. Maybe it prefers port 80 and it doesn't know which port it's accessing from for some reason. Oh, of course, that's
not easily.
That is not going to work because we already have something listening on that.
Mm-hmm. The ingress controller for the rest of the cluster.
Yeah. I really want to show this. It's cool.
Yeah.
Roll back a little bit to your when you had it up and running as a service, where you ran Linkerd dashboard and maybe debug from there. It's still this is for fun and exploration, so I think it's fine to go through and slowly get. Well, we're going to take a little side journey. These journeys on Thursday afternoon, wherever they take us, is a delightful journey altogether. So,
that's right.
With the Grafana up and running, and you let's check that URL. Yeah, that's fine too.
I'm gonna take a look at the values, and then we're looking for
root URL.
Basic auth.
Line 6. How does that get interpolated under protocols and domains? Is that that's a parameter into the chart? Because that feels like we're doing a Helm deploy with this file getting fed to it. And some point, protocol and domain got to be fed to it, and I feel like we missed that.
Yeah, that is that's certainly a good point. What I'm going to do is manually set it.
And go back a little bit because I want to note something else before, because there was another line.
Yep.
Down on line 32. Whoop. Thank you for making it bigger. That's probably fine. Yeah, never mind. Yep, just checking URLs.
Cool. Maybe this is tuned to work quite well for local, but because we're going from fake local to, the real
there
world.
will be a bit of interesting things in deploying into a live cluster with actually working ingress already.
Yeah. So yeah, this is not your ordinary production, but it can't like it.
Well, it sort of is like
ordinary
production, and most of these targeted commands are dealt for ordinary development. Yeah. And our pair environments are much closer to production deployments than to development environments.
That's true. And I'm going to set grafana.ini .server.root URL to equal exactly incognito. There it is. Just make it do...
Just the host name, eh?
Do that one. Sweet.
Or the entire URL. Okay, URL. Yep. Sans /
Now we want that. And then Grafana. It'd be easier if I just type it up manually. Get pods. Pretty sweet. And then port forward. Do we want to do that? Is it in a different window? Hello. And we're not doing... Yeah. Perfect. And... The demo gods are not with us. That's okay.
Do we need to do the port forward? I was actually trying to back out to the normal ingress controllery thing.
Yeah. I could make it just expose it on a port. That could be a way.
I'm trying to get back to what the original error was while we went down trying to do the port forward. And it was same error or a different one? Yeah. Because what I see here is there's a problem loading the application files. You showed the error log a moment ago for the console for this, and it sparked something, and then it since passed. But show the console for your browser. There's a 404. Where is it going to get the things? Oh, wow, those are fancy NSN addresses. Those are seconds, so never mind.
So if I maybe copy this link, this will fail.
Error copying, so the...
Aha. Maybe?
No, it's still 404, but it's
this is working on that root domain, root of the thing.
So part of the thing, I think there's so this happens a lot when you're doing proxying.
Yeah.
There needs to be in cases like this, the application itself needs to be aware of its root URL.
Yeah.
And the root URL that's being passed to it is this thing. There it is. It's called the root URL. Yeah, try that. Because that's the root URL of the server.
Let me just check that I have gotten the right. I might just redo the.
Or add the slash at the end.
I did before.
Oh, yeah.
So if I do that, dot server, dot, looks identical.
There we go.
Nothing's changed.
That's not. Doesn't seem right. Correct? I mean, we just changed an actual setting on the deployment or on the configuration of the. Did that map through in the deployment to something that wouldn't restart the pods?
You know what? Let's just uninstall it and reinstall.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling that at this point. Like, nah, she should have. What is it? She'll be right. Nah.
Because you see right here, that's before we set it, and this is getting the config map where it's stored.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That
So
definitely
I'm going to
felt
go
wrong.
upgrade and install, please work. And then get the config map again. It didn't, it's not coming through.
Okay, so check your nesting. Like go from root URL, like just scroll up in your Control B left bracket. Because I just want to see in that output of the config. Keep going. What's the next heading? Grafana.ini. And that's the top level because it's always your left column.
Yeah.
There's not two spaces to the left of it. Just check it.
This is just indent.
What's up above that?
These are shell commands for some reason to download dashboards.
That's inside. But that's a download dash. So that's top level. The D.
It's another key. So
it's
inside of data.
Data. Oh, there you go. So it is data dot. So go back to your command again. I just kind of trying to feel good about it. Where's data?
You don't put data because in the values for the Helm chart. See,
can you poll the values of deployment? Just I'm being finicky because I just want to see it. There's a distrust level of it didn't show up in the values after.
Oh.
The dot did not do what you wanted it to do. You need to quote that out. And it quotes.
Yes. Single quotes, right?
Yeah, that'll do. Get rid of the backslash. Yeah. No. Yeah, I think. I don't know. Like. Now get it again. Try 2 backslashes. Try 1 backslash, then 2 until we get it right. Kirk, you've never experienced this, right?
There you go.
Absolutely not. It always just makes
me
this
go.
up.
I'm glad I could help. It was definitely just not.
And then now if we go back to, for some reason I'm doing this.
It's where the escaping occurred. Your first slash was the bash, and bash interpreted that and removed the backslash. So it was always passing all a series of dots. Yeah. But you needed an escape to pass to the application to do its own escaping. A double backslash without the quotes would also have worked.
There we go. Ta-da! You will never have to deal to this in production because you won't do it this way.
Somebody put that in the till.
This is loading. That's cool. Everybody likes when things load.
Another great Grafana dashboard is the DevStats repo on CNCF.
That is really
That is one of the most complex, integrated, long-term, lots of time series data that I've ever seen.
Yep, all of the projects. You want to see Kubernetes and maybe, I don't know. What's this?
Let's see which one loads first.
I'm guessing this one will. I don't know why this one's.
It's a lot of data. And when this stuff is loading, it's more about the data transfer. Because our data can't be that big. It's going to sit there and...
This is the Kubernetes one. So let's go to Kubernetes, which we're already on. And we can see the amount of hourly commits and stuff to the repo. You can see.
You can almost see weekdays, but normally the weeks are where you're the days are going to see. You'll see weekend. So
less companies contributing around November for some reason this last year. Wait,
is that a year? That's back to 28. Those are yearly cycles. Those whole dips, those are the holiday.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool stuff. Grafana is super sweet.
Yeah. A very good skill to have.
So that's devstats.cncf.io.
Or on GitHub CNCF/devstats, and a lot of really good people. There's a Ukrainian guy by the name of, what's his name? Lucas. And he's been working as a contractor with the CNCF since before I was there. Really smart fella.
That's cool. And he works on... Oh, look at that.
Yeah, he is DevStats. I have no doubt. It's a beautiful pipeline to like Postgres and then GraphQL and then loading all the stuff in from... Because eventually the stuff in GraphQL from GitHub disappears. And there's these long-term storage things he has in Postgres that he dumps out that just snap. Beautiful.
Metrics. That's pretty cool. So...
that looks cool.
I like dashboards. Dashboards are nice and pretty. We're going to deployment. We're going to go namespace. We need to spin it up again. So right now, this isn't running. This is just from the last time I showed it.
You have 45 seconds.
Okay, so I'm going to refresh it. That's coming up. That's 3 containers. One of them is Linkerd one, and one of them is knative, I think, and then one of them is the actual.
Can you grab that just for a second so we can see it? Well, in the 40, hit it a couple times so we have 45 more seconds, and then do a kubectl get all of the containers within that pod, because I know that you know this, but sometimes it's really nice just to see it on the screen.
So I'm gonna split this. Looks a little bit horrible, but that's okay. And then we haven't even gotten to, okay, now I've modified my service, what happens? It gets pretty cool. But we don't actually care about spilling secrets that are on this box today because it's got
empirical.
Nothing. It's all gonna go away. But
you hackers, these are already not useful to you.
That's right. I'm gonna delete it right after. But yeah, so okay, basic stuff. We have the labels, containers. This is where it gets interesting. So we have a Linkerd proxy. The proxy is the first container that comes up. This thing is for making sure that Linkerd gets to proxy all the traffic that's coming through it, which will allow you to see all of the interesting things. It's configuring the proxy to work with the apps. If you tell it port 80, it's really
so many bars passed into.
You wouldn't even know. So yeah, proxy right there. Proxy is a thing that's written in Edge. If you, for those who are watching it later, or I don't know.
Written in Edge.
Rust.
Rust. That's what
I saw the word. Sorry, I saw
there
the
is
word.
Edge. And I was like, that's
Edge.
a new language.
Yeah.
Tell me about this thing.
Yeah, so it's written in Rust, and it's super fast, and it's purpose-built. So like Istio will use Envoy, which is general purpose proxy, which is really good. It's really well written.
I dig some Envoy.
I like Envoy. This one doesn't use it. Perfectly fine. Valid either way. It is really fast, and it's minimal, and so it's not doesn't have things it doesn't need. But anyways, we're running a wait to say, wait till my thing is ready. And then now we have the...
Sometimes in getting the containers spin up fast, you don't want to wait for different state changes before you do an image pull and get the container ready. You want it already ready for the exact millisecond that there is a signal to continue the process of serving.
That's right. And so you can see right here, this is the second container. This is actually what we're trying to run. This is Nginx, and then it's got knative related things being passed to it. So you've got the name of it, because I know I didn't. I applied it. I didn't really go into what is a K service too much. I showed it very briefly, but K service, knative service, and what revision it is, what port is it running on. This is my environment that I passed to it. that runs when your container comes up. When the pod comes up for the first time, it copies in binaries to what you're actually doing. It's interesting, but it runs wait for drain when it is about to stop, integrations, and then finally, right here we have the
final pod.
Yes, we have another knative
container.
thing. Yep, and that is through the queuing and do all of my proxy, all that fun stuff. Yeah, so...
Can you do that again without the verbosity of the YAML output, just so we can clearly see the list with not -o YAML? Just so we can see the list of pods? Yep. 3 more backspaces. Or that. The pod. They're gone now, so we gotta poke it one more time to get it.
So, yeah. It's not deleting it. It's just scaling
it
down.
The deployment is there. That's what I'm trying to get at.
So
when you hit it, the deployment scales up to 1, and the deployment of the pod scales up 3 different pods, and those pods are
3 different containers.
Some initializing of the 3 things. So you can see these different pods coming up of 0, 1, 2, 3. But can you get a list of the containers within that pod just without the long part, right?
I can write a little thing.
JSON path's so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing JSON path as an option to do things because I did a lot of stuff with JQ. And so I'd have to learn the JQ path, which before that was actually doing a lot of JSON path in browsery stuff.
Yeah.
So that I could figure out where within the HTTP spec file it wasn't actually JSON path. It was something earlier than that. It was XPath.
Oh,
XPath is the JSON path of XML/HTML. So there's all of these libraries that parse XPath, which is a very it was the predecessor to JSON path, to be able to specify things to search through all of the stuff in a query language. So now you've got the ability, because things like the browser thing for driving stuff. I forget the name of it. There's many libraries for access, but one of them actually spins up an instance of Firefox or Safari or whatever, and then goes through using a injected JavaScript module to do the XPath query on the document itself, so that you can query and figure out, if, for example, how to identify other objects within the browser rendered JSON thing to click on a link so you can drive automation. I know, it's like, what is that? It's actually to ensure that you could do a mouse over, for example, to emulate, moving the mouse around a section in your UI test.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's a lot of engineering.
It is necessary to be able to specify what things look like. Other because you're going to have your init containers and your main containers. Mm-hmm. And it's a spec. There you go, template spec.
That way I can switch it to
No, you're good. No. Mm-hmm. And then, it's amazing your deployment is lovely, but playment might do better.
Where did I write that?
At the third word within your parameters.
Like
there you go.
Deploy more than one thing,
Absolutely. That's why we do pairing here. It's multiple eyes on the same thing.
Thank you.
Deploymenty. And then, ta-da!
Apparently that's it, but I might have done something wrong with the init containers.
They gave us the command, which sorry, I'm going to read your.
Let me make this
JSON path.
I've just tucked away the left pane, so we just have the right one.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But yeah, so
up arrow so we can see it all on the screen. I might move our picture-in-picture above the text we're trying to read. Yeah. End. Wow, that is some. I love your ability to hold the JSON path in your head, because it's, having grown up on XPath, translating that to JSON path, and it doesn't happen by default, particularly because it feels more like a programming language. the next path did.
There's also Go template, which I actually think is better.
Yeah, why don't we just show a version of that?
Go template is, if you're familiar with writing Golang, you use things like, so I don't know, C as in container.
Did you make that variable up, or are you trying to refer to it later somehow?
I'm making a variable.
Absolutely.
.spec. No, we're doing .template. Yeah. Spec containers.
The first one.
And then I'm going to do an end. And then I'll do .name. Yeah, you know what?
There you go. It's like, how do you, is that returning as a value, or do you need to?
Function C is not defined yet.
I think $C is the right one, and :C, equals feels like the right assigner. Is spec template containers just, I mean, it looks right to me, bro. No, I don't think you need to. It's not like, it's not straight Go. It is definitely
spec template.
Go template.
Spec containers. The point of what I'm trying to show is that you can write Go templates, which would use the text one. Oh, you know what? I'm using the wrong type of quotes.
It's trying to execute the thing.
Yeah, it's trying to do bash. Like,
no, I think the what you had originally was unexpected range. Unexpected range. Why? Is it a function you need to put parentheses or something around? Like,
all right, docs.
Every good project is defined by the quality of its documentation. You'll hear that every time from me whenever we say docs. And so we're like, there's two parts of documentation: how to get started and how to get unstuck. And we're trying to get unstuck right now. So how quickly can we find the documentation for getting unstuck?
So this thing just use range. I'm used to.
Oh, that is different. Range dot. See, there's a space problem. You just get rid of that space after range. It should do the thing. And the assignment? What a variable does it get assigned to?
So we're actually it's being quite similar to how it was before, but I'm used to range in Go. No, I'm missing something again, because you do the variable declarations as well, and that's super useful because you can get the index.
No, yeah, we would.
The index of the slice, and then you can get the actual content of the slice.
It is a slice, eh?
Yeah.
And a slice is a Go term for a list, an object within the list, by the way. I learned this, it's all.
It took me a while before I started saying slice, but I say slice now. Anyways, same thing. We have
dot name, because I think what we're primarily interested is like, oh wow, that's a long thing.
We have exact resolved container images, so we know that this container image will be exactly this one, which is, I personally don't do this because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
However, you should absolutely put the full hash of your container image in to specify, I want exactly this image. You can go even further.
I don't know. So the hash thing, it's hard to understand the context, and context is super important. Understanding there's different things about registries where you can do immutable tags. And so what you're really interested is what moment in time, what version of forward momentum did we decide was the last time we looked at this and decided to upgrade. The hash on its own doesn't feel great for that. If you're trying to be super precise about it, the way that Caleb did it here, where specifying the tag and the @SHA does both. So I was about to disagree with you and then fully agree with you.
So what you could do, and this is good, but not for Nginx. You do want to be using tags that aren't latest. For Nginx, it seems they're using stable as pretty much latest.
Yep.
So never use latest in the production, just in general. But yeah, use like a version tag. This is version 1.
Yep.
And then if you want the better thing to do is pull it, so you have the resolved version, which is right here, and then you go at, and then you put what it will definitely be resolved to. So this is when the container image is all together, and all of its assets are pulled down. What will its hash be? So this means that you can be assured that you have the exact version that you want.
It feels to me like what would happen at that point is the colon stable is ignored completely, but it still provides you the context I was talking about to be able to understand, well, what was I intending by that? Oh, stable. I was intending 1.3. Well, there was a security breach. We had that. Yeah. We don't want that. We would rather them have immutable and to say nobody ever use 1.23 or whatever.
But this also means that you can have multiple tags with the exact same content. Stable 1. Yeah. Both result in the exact same content, which is pretty sweet.
Will that force it to try and get the specific SHA version of that tag?
Yep, and if it's not available, it just won't work. Just won't pull. You'll get a.
I've had before where I was using latest because I'm bad. But if I updated what the latest was, Kubernetes would just go, "Oh yeah, I've got latest," and then just carry on, even though it wasn't up to date. Would the SHA thing fix that?
And if you don't have a pull policy of always and you're trying to use latest, then you'll just have whichever version is cached locally.
Even with the SHA, if I change the SHA.
Oh, if you change the SHA and it's a different latest, but it's still latest, then it will in fact pull the latest version because the image that you've specified doesn't match the previous image that was specified.
Yep.
So yeah. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
very handy.
We have knative installed. We've deployed our first version of our app. We can see that it's running. Well, it is if you visit it. Here's a fun thing. What's the time on it? I don't know if it will work. Oh, that just won't do it. Because that URL is set to what I was expecting for locally. This is a cool thing, custom domain. So if you want to run like a proper website on here, you want to have it as my very cool website.com, then you can put a claim for a domain. So this is a little bit different. Normally you'd specify the domain that you want to run your site on under the host of your Ingress manifest, but here it's done separately. So this is assuming that you don't want to expose your services all in the same way. You want to be very specific about making certain ones public in different ways. So it's good for with Knative, I would assume that you'd want to build lots of microservices and deploy them in the cluster, and then they can all talk to each other. Then you'd use a service mesh like Linkerd for observability to see how they're talking to each other when they're spun up. And then, I don't know where it's going with that. You have a service that is mapped through these cluster domain claim and domain mapping to go to that service down here. I should really show that service one more time. If you want to see it again, Hippie. Yes, so, you might have seen a deployment spec. Look at this and try and imagine a deployment spec. It kind of looks like a deployment spec, but it's just missing a lot, and it looks very small, doesn't it?
It's a service.
But it's a different API version.
Oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable because it looks exactly like the same thing. I know this is okay, but my gut reaction is queasy.
You can also say, if I want to get them, I can go kubectl get ksvc.
Yeah, but
all
or default.
Yep, default.
Default. There's no default.
There you go. K-service or K-service.
It's funny they didn't error. It just said there's none in default. You're right, because there's not one.
You can do K-service as well, or you can do service.knative serving.
That's serving.knative serving, not service serving. I think serving at the beginning because I was just looking at the object type. Or that.
.dev. Isn't that cool? I'm not even writing it completely, and it knows what I mean.
I know what you're talking about, bro.
So that's pretty sweet. Yeah, so very simple. Required fields are this, and that. 3 required fields, run your thing. This is definitely designed around workloads that aren't...
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just... He's said it several times, but I want you to actually stop for a moment and look. This is it. My understanding is there is not anything else other than defining a service as a
What would you like to know about customer service?
There's customer service. Sorry, Siri, this was not for you. That around the serving of a knative service is providing the container spec for it. And that's it.
It doesn't use the same validation as what you'd have for deployment. It fills in the blanks.
And then I guess the last thing is mapping it to that ingress. Do you need to supply the other thing, or is this it?
So you're a cluster administrator. Me, in the case of this example, is setting the default domains for all of your services coming up. And so what we've chosen is my parent instance's base domain name, and then it's mapping the
name of the metadata,
the K service's name and its namespace, so that we access
nginx.default. There it is. Just like it is exactly as you said, without any further configuration.
That's right. And so that's not actually a great URL. Let's say it's actually not that. Let's say it's something that you've configured for your organization for whatever reason.
Right.
It's not necessarily great. You might actually not want it to be public, and you can say, actually, this is a private service, and we're not going to expose it.
Yes.
And maybe you've got lots of microservices that are all in this cluster, and they're all meant to only talk to each other, except for maybe 1 or 2.
Right.
An API and a web. And so you'd make them private and not exposed to this, except when you want
I always want to hear more about this service type in the API, because obviously it is different.
So here you have cluster domain claim. This says this domain exists. And then domain mapping says the domain that exists maps to my service. And then this is also where you declare your TLS secret. I didn't do this in my example because I was running it on my machine and nightmare. So yeah, let's say I've got my Let's Encrypt. What is it? You have a cert and a cluster issuer.
Right.
And so you've already got the cert. The cert is coming through. You just put the secret for it right there. So for instance, I could put ii.nz right there, and then it would map all the way through, and it will just work.
I want to run this on anything, so then I don't have containers up and running on my Raspberry Pi, except for the moment, and it does take a second for it to load. But I don't know. Like, there's some trade-off there for the dynamic configured load time for the moment that someone hits my thing.
Yeah. One thing that's noted, one thing that's really good with alternative things that are like more function as a service, like OpenFairs, for example, that supports, if you're using the Docker install of it, because Docker supports container pausing, Kubernetes doesn't. And that means that because it's paused, it's not running, it's not taking up any CPU, and then when it gets hit, it unpauses it. And so this is something that's been talked about. I don't know what the current status of it is in the Kubernetes community or anything, but that's pretty cool. Containerd, I think, does support it, but just not all the way through to Kubernetes. Any questions before I deploy a app that I deploy in places about Knative, about Kubernetes, or about...
this is to you, Kirk.
What's the other one that we've deployed? We've got Linkerd. All of the.
I think that's clear enough.
Yeah, nice cluster. I like it. We spin these up every day. Sweet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a namespace, and I'm also going to inject it with Linkerd things. So that's happening. And so earlier, I managed to get Statgress up and going. And so Statgress is a Postgres operator for Kubernetes. It's a Kubernetes native way of running things. Very friendly community.
Very cool.
They're a part of the Data on Kubernetes community, which is pretty awesome, run by Bart Farrell. That's his name.
Bart does some really cool things with summarizing community meetings with rap songs. Like, come on, this is awesome.
Pretty sweet. So, folks over at Statgress are up to Data on Kubernetes often. That is dok.community for Data on Kubernetes. All things running databases, file storage, and everything in between. They said it could never be done, but of course it's the cloud. Of course it's done. Kubernetes is just an idealistic representation of the cloud, which works pretty good.
It does.
It's you fire up your favorite cloud provider's project. It's pretty much a cloud project is pretty much just a Kubernetes cluster kind of thing. That's how I think of it. So of course you can run a database in Kubernetes and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But you do need to tune it. Please tune your database.
Yeah. The defaults are there to get you started, but then you need to hold it well.
But if you don't want to tune your database because experts have done it for you, then use Statgress, which you can also tune even further if that's your thing. So Statgress is pretty cool. I have been running it on one of my clusters for about 3 months or something. I replaced a different Postgres operator with this one, and look, it has a dashboard, and it creates manifests, and you can use the dashboard, and you can just apply manifests, and it just works. So everybody wins. So yeah, here's a basic manifest for a database cluster. I'm choosing to only create one replica, not production ready. Only 1 gigabyte, not production ready.
It'll do, pig. It'll do.
This is a demo. Production, no. So what I'm going to do is fire that one up. That's going to create. We actually talked about Envoy before. This has Envoy in it. Statgress does. And it's just initializing all of the things. It has really good capabilities, like nice. It has support for Postgres extensions. Postgres is my favorite database, and I think a lot of friends in the space seem to like it as well. So yeah, does really cool things. Wait for it to come up. This is not running in Knative. Do not try to run a database in Knative. It probably won't work.
That was not the expected use case.
I did try because I was curious.
Did you seriously try?
Yeah,
how did that go for you?
Just change the image.
With the storage.
You can put a volume mount and...
Yeah, and then Postgres must start and verify only one at a time, so you have to limit it to one.
Actually, I think it's in this document at the bottom.
Oh my gosh, I tried.
Yeah,
this.
here it is. So this is what I did. Like,
I love Caleb.
As expected, this did not work so well. After a minute or so, the server spins down, and then because I'm confused. Like, I've heard people saying Google's Cloud Run uses Knative, and then I've heard people saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that it doesn't use Knative because of the time for scaling issues." So I
It's a configuration option.
Maybe Google don't know what it uses.
Wait. So on a side note, I just wanted to note that Amazon and IBM and Google are all working to donate to make sure that Knative is successful. It would make you wonder if maybe these all cloud providers aren't using the same thing underneath the hood and selling it.
Just like Kubernetes.
It's a win for everybody.
You can hide it as deep as you want for your offering or whatever it is.
Now, to be clear, Google Cloud Run itself is a high-level service that doesn't require you to know anything about Kubernetes. The fact that they're using Kubernetes underneath that, and Amazon will likely do something, and Apple uses something underneath all of the clouds of the world is Kubernetes. Yay! There you go. Sorry, a side note on selling.
Actually, speaking of Google Cloud Run with Knative, you can actually use a literal Knative manifest to deploy your service.
Well, of course, you passing right along to the underlying layers.
So that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Now we'll go back up to things that are good. So we've just deployed our database. It's running. this should be pretty boring at this point. We have a database, who cares kind of thing. But let's just go here.
You deployed. It's a rap song. You got it up. Data.
So I can go PG utils and I can go PSQL. Is what I'd do if that existed, but of course it does not. So I'm going to have
container for you.
It is called...
One of many.
Postgres util.
I'd say that one.
That's pretty good.
Dash. There you go.
Cool.
I'm in. This is a Unix system.
They've made it so it doesn't require any credentials to get in.
If you can get to the cluster console, you own it anyway.
There was good reason for it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think there were at least 2 issues on it and discussion in the different places. But yeah, so that's cool. We have a database. Doesn't have anything, as you can see by my query right there. If you can call that a query, it's more of a command. Anyways, cool. Database. I like it. And then for deploying, my favorite thing to deploy, which actually has a new version, so I'm just going to... You didn't see anything. This is the first version of the coolest service. What there's a word like that people use to deploy if they have a new thing that they want to try and they want to run it, they'll use their something project. What's it? There's a word for it.
Their canary project?
Canary project.
Yeah.
That might be it. Yeah, this is my canary project.
This is the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Does it blend? Oh, that's not great.
So yeah, this is much shorter than what I need to configure for the Helm chart. So actually, I'm like, oh wow, that looks pretty good. Less to maintain, but because if I have multiple of these, it makes it easier to go and look through, and it's actually closer to what I'm actually deploying because I'm actually declaring the.
So to reiterate, what you're saying is do not deploy your database using Knative. However, your application access in the database should be right.
So for instance, like I deploy my database through Stackgrass, I deploy my Minio through a Minio operator, or if I forget if they're still maintaining that, but in the case that they're not, just set up a stateful set. And then I'll deploy my services through Knative.
Needless to say, the data on Kubernetes community is a separate community from the Knative community.
These are all separate. Okay, let's see. Kubernetes, Knative, Linkerd, data on Kubernetes. What are we missing? A few of them. Prometheus, Grafana.
Sharing I/O.
Yes, that's again very separate.
It's a very small community, but we're we all know each other.
Here all we're doing is, we want that container image. This is the default port for my app. Time zone, because you should set that in anything that you run, otherwise it'll be whatever the host is, and that's confusing. Give me the database. It's exactly the same as what you want. This is just the pod spec. And then, let's bring it up. Sweet, created. And of course, the first time it will bring it up. There it goes.
It's initialized in the FlatTrack test pod, which is initialized in the database, which is already up and running.
It's up and running.
But only this first time when it's done. Yay!
Cool. That is a lot. Those are a lot of pods.
That was a lot of things coming all at once. And then FlatTrack is up.
So I'm going to copy this and bring it to my incognito.
In its namespace of FlatTrack test, the FlatTrack deployment with the database that's going to create it and all the tables populated. So momentarily when you print it, it's already up.
Boom.
Fantastic.
And then I can just go through, just to prove that databasing works, because why not? Let's go and say...
This is really cool, man.
Thank you. Go and register an account on this whole thing. There's a lot of software.
The stack is not small.
But I would be fine maintaining it. I don't think it's that bothersome. Linkerd doesn't get in the way unless you have services that make requests immediately, and Knative, you just use Knative. Oh, I should touch on the CLI in a bit. And what else is there? Things. Maybe we'll just jump over to grab the thing to access. Linkerd. Sweet. So now we can see that in the
So many namespaces. You got to click harder to the left.
Force touch.
Flat track
Cool.
test namespace.
So we can see it's running. Oh, it ends in CSV. That's my lucky day. It's just the how it's been generated for that random string for the pod.
It looks like hex. Go back, just because I want to check the rest of the digits. The rest of those are A through F, which is hex. CSV at the end feels a bit weird for it. That's pretty random.
I think it's just scaled down.
Hit it again. Hit it again. Just keep curling it for a moment so we can keep it up.
Terminating.
Because I want to look at that.
Isn't that cool? So this is how you do serverless on Kubernetes.
That is so cool. Go.
Yeah.
Look at your names again where you had CSV.
Yep. Oh, it's
It's still CSV.
that's the old one, which is now
it's
gone.
terminating, and it's RV.
So what's actually happening here is when in the deep in the Kubernetes code base, Steven's actually found this, where it is the name generation. They're not doing A to Z. They're cutting out different letters, mostly vowels and stuff, so that words that might be inappropriate or not, they shouldn't associate, can't be generated through the entropy of space and time.
Interesting. I'd love to see that, because what I see as an old human is development dash, and that's a hex, because there is nothing after F, and statistically that's hard, but that's probably the hash of the deployment content, so that if you change your deployment, then the hash content and then the name change would encourage and probably in some mechanism automatically change and redeploy the deployment. And then that thing at the end is the instance of the pod, because you're doing get pods. Yeah. And so as the pods go up and down and go pinning and terminating, that last 5 digits is not a hash anymore. It's the 5-digit please annoy, don't say ugly words. So they probably removed, like you said, the vowels. So you'll only see 0 through 9 and A through F, the hex digits between the second set, and the last one is a 5-letter and alphanumeric sans vowels. Fun.
Yeah. Ta-da. That's pretty cool. We're running on Linux AMD 64.
As you
nice. Do. And this is a release just from
moments
last
ago.
week. Just from last week. Yeah, and so right now we've got a copy of it running. Can refresh it, we're working fine. Jump into the shopping list, why not? Party, and then we're just gonna get egg. We'll go like 100 and.
It's a big egg party.
We don't have any tags.
Fresh eggs, please.
Poultry.
Oh, they're chicken eggs, not duck eggs.
Crispy. Eggs.
It's a specialty here at IO.
We'll also get bread.
Yeah. Eggs on toast, bro.
And this goes in general for me. There you go. And yeah, it feels like I'm using it normally, really.
Yeah.
Also interesting of course I'm accessing it from 80. I was going to say, why am I not accessing it on 8080, but of course it's running through
the ingress controller for
Courier, which is
Courier, and then that's kind of fun. It's interesting to see how they would handle the HTTPS ingress somehow, because we did with some defaults when we set up.
Yeah, actually, why don't we go and configure that? So
and one more thing,
I'm gonna copy this custom domain stuff over, and after we deploy FlatTrack, and set a custom domain for FlatTrack, and then this one will be, what do you want it to be?
FlatTrack.volumepops.
Yeah, that's that'll be easy to demo, and then this one is in
FlatTrack-test. Fault track is when you're trying to measure all of your failings in life.
It might be useful for some things. And
FlatTrack.bobbymcbobs.
And then
I think we just got the inspiration for an entire new service. Failure as a service.
Perfect.
Fail fast and track your failures. Up and to the right.
So right now what I'm going to do is make sure that secret is synced. So because of the set of things that are deployed in the cluster right now, there's a thing called kubed, which is used for syncing secrets and config maps between namespaces and a few other things. That's all we're using it for.
Mm-hmm. How does it know to get into the flat track test namespace from wherever it was before?
RBAC.
Ah.
It has permission. Of all namespaces.
But does it copy it to all namespaces by default? Or
no.
So we're going to have to tell it to go there from here.
So I don't remember. So I'm going to just go into a place that I know does have it, which is not that one. It's this one. This is the repo for all of the things. So what I'm going to do is label. I don't need to put it in this because I don't think I'm committing this, but I'll go that, and this can go into
a label for a namespace. How cool is that?
Just to show you it doesn't exist. Get the secrets in there. You don't see one called Let's Encrypt Prod.
And then
now you do. And then let's call it Let's Encrypt.
Secrets everywhere.
Prod. Cool.
What's cool about on the pair clusters is the Let's Encrypt Prod secret for TLS is for all the domains. It's a big, wide, I don't need to renegotiate. star.bobbymcbobs.pair.sharing.o is secure as, brah.
That's right. And that way you can just bring up any development things with
It's one of the
security.
more beautiful things I love about it.
Unknown field. What am I missing?
This is what? Like V?
TLS. What I'll do is I'll go kubectl explain.
Oh, the explain command. What is it that they're looking for? Let me tell you right now, bro. If you're looking for the spec and for the TLS, spec.tls. Domain mapping spec TLS. Secret name. There's
secret.
one more.
I got it wrong.
Secret name, capital N. See? I'm glad we had the next. That's some mansplaining. No, it's the coop-splaining. I don't know how to call it, but coop-splained.
That sounds terrible.
You got coop-splained, which is positive because we're all learning together.
Hey, there you go.
Everybody enjoys a good explaining.
So in theory, I should be able to go to this domain.
When requested, we requested the splaining, just to be clear.
That's right. It works.
Invitation. Successful.
So we have full TLS on a knative service using Cert Manager to get the certificate, knative to scale it, stackgrs to run the database, Linkerd to provide service mesh and monitoring for it, Kubernetes to run it all in.
It's the heart flutters at each of these layers. I love to see Caleb in his best at the Perry bits on the infrastructure we create to pair with our community.
Thank you, Equinix Metal, for donating the hardware for us.
Ed, you're the bomb, and all the folks there. And thank you, Kirk, for encouraging us to share a little bit about Knative.
Let's turn on the animations because you asked for it. This is a party, right? Wait for it.
Do it, party.
Wait for it.
Oh, confetti everywhere. All right.
Do it again.
Clean up, aisle 5.
Scale up. Yeah.
One more time. Again. Do it again.
It's the sort of rainbow unicorn like Asana.
What's that? Sorry, Kirk?
It's the sort of rainbow unicorn like Asana.
That would also be good, though.
I want the sprinkles shooting out of the horn of a rainbow unicorn.
All right, so now we've got our thing running, and it's pretty sweet. Looks great. And we've seen that. Traffic splitting. You have multiple versions of your thing.
Oh my goodness, this is the red, blue, green.
Yeah.
ABC testing at this point.
That's right. So this version, I've added in security things. This is what I always do for pretty much everything I'm deploying. I want to make sure that my app is locked down. Even though my app doesn't access the file system, have any code for escalating it. And it's also, it doesn't have an OS, so the only binary in it is flat track. I still care about locking it down even further. So I'm going to add, it can only execute code running as this user, and the root file system is read-only, because even if someone manages to get into the file system, put a malicious binary, grab the secrets and the environment variables, can't write anything. Cool, that's what I'm doing there, and we're also adding a login message. You'll see this in a sec. This will be one of our ways of seeing are there multiple versions running?
Right, yeah.
Yep. Actually, this is a fun thing. So the front end for FlatTrack is written in Vue.js.
That it is.
And the back end is written in Go, and Go has Go templates.
It does.
And so the index.html has a meta tag at the top of the head of the HTML. And so if this meta tag has a value set through the Go template in the back end, Vue.js on the front end will be like, hey, a meta tag was set, and then the JavaScript pulls out the content,
absolutely,
and then it displays whatever you wanted.
And somehow inside the ANV of that app login message value gets passed into the Go application, which writes its Go templating down to the file. So when you do a request, it's in the browser.
That's right.
Snap.
And so the front end is actually static. It's not.
No, of course.
It has no server-side rendering.
No.
So this is how you do server-side rendering.
It is server-side. The server rendered it before the file system.
And so what we're doing right here, this is actually presuming that we've deployed 3 versions. We're saying the latest version, we're actually going to do 10% because we're doing a scale test. And then version 1 will just be like, oh yeah, some people can get this. And then
most of you are going to be upgraded to the very unstable version.
So because we only have 2 versions, that means that version 2 will actually come through at 65%, and version 1 will come through at 25%. I think I've done the numbers right, but I probably haven't. So you get the idea. There's a split. It's at least 70-30 split kind of thing. And yep, that's pretty sweet. Let's deploy version 2. I'm pretty sure it's tangled. Configured. Cool. That's what we want. Now,
get the web browser.
Before we do, I'm going to get the pods.
To note that we don't have version 2. Oh, it is running.
It's running both versions because that's how we roll. Every time we scale it up, it's going to run both. And so I'm going to log out to demonstrate what I'm doing. Why am I using this? We have the full TLM.
Is that 3 versions? 3 pods? Or
I think it's only running the 2 that he listed inside the deployment and choosing the latest version to give a 10% increase to.
Yeah. If I made yet another version, then would have all 3 versions due to the way that the...
So he's only added one. You saw that second step he did after was deployment 2, and he's referring to deployment 1 and latest pods, being the new one.
3 pods for each deployment, or I see there's only 2?
3.
There'll be 1 pod per version.
Oh, 1 pod, yeah. Why is it not scaling?
Why aren't there 3 pods? It's because I haven't made a 3rd version. So if we look...
3...
but before you had 3 of 1.
No, that's 3 containers within a particular pod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So... you see it's running actually right here on the login screen, as I said.
It is absolutely epic.
Level 2 is totally epic.
Reload. Every third or so reload. It should not show reload. Hey, look, was that spinning up? No. What if I hit it from mine?
There it is.
Hey, V2 is not epic because this is not V2. Thank you.
Yep. So that's pretty cool. This isn't... There are better ways that you can do this. So like if a header is set or stuff like that. I think headers are probably the best way to do it. So you'd say, are you this client? Okay.
Right.
You're this client. Server says that I am this header, so therefore because I'm presenting this header the next time I make the request, it's going to take me to a different host. And okay, cool. We have traffic splitting.
Is there other types of splitting other than amount of traffic, or do you?
let me show you.
Because some of those things are pretty cool. Because we're doing some other traffic splitting in the Kubernetes community that might be useful to understand how they do it here.
Great question. So let's get kservice.spec.
Absolutely.
.traffic.
I love kube-splaining.
Just doesn't sound right, does it?
But it is the thing, right? We are
kubectl
requesting an
explain.
explanation.
This is a feature of the kubectl, which has sources from the Open API specs for each resource. But yeah, you have inside of
it's limited to percentage from looking at the documentation here. Percentage, revision name, tag, URL, where to send it.
That's pretty cool. Tag. So many cool things. And yes, I can hit this and it will. No, that URL doesn't work. So I won't run these. Can't be bothered modifying it. But this is what you can expect. 2 1 1 1 2 2 2 1.
Look at that! I love this org mode stuff that we have here with this really simple loop that says go over this a few times, and let me know how often we're hitting these things. We could have a summary. Yep. I think one of the things that Caleb mentioned to me earlier today is his desire for people to be able to access open source in a meaningful way easily. We're all doing this through terminals and stuff, but imagine for a moment if we had on the same deployment the ability to run VS Code via web browser, by the way, no software on your computer. And you come into vscode.mylittlestation of things of loveliness, and you go open an org file, and it does this via hitting keys in the browser. That level of go through this workflow and learn to do this thing where you're in control of all the pieces, not necessarily to go the underlying Emacs foo of things, but just clicking on the buttons in the VS Code UI. Is something that has become a resonating pattern with people who've seen us doing this stuff before. And particularly when I'm seeing our conciseness of this explaining something in many different languages throughout this, whether it's Go code or YAML or shell commands or whatever. I'm a fan. How can we where does it take my money?
Yep. So as I've noted, this is very cool.
It is very cool.
And then here we return to, don't try to run a basic Postgres on here. Maybe to be fair, if you re-engineered the image a bit more, it could maybe handle it. But my understanding is that it does best for HTTP services.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep that in mind.
Anything that the processing power only needs a short. That one you can spin up in a reasonable amount of time, and the persistence, the creating the ability to respond is quick.
Yep.
So the persistence is stored somewhere else versus trying to ensure consistency. That's why database is trying to load up and ensure consistency before starting to serve.
Absolutely.
Yay.
And then I posted my thoughts at the end.
1 moment. My wife is. It's fine.
It is. So yeah, summed up, I find it easier with the stack for things, and the non-connection to the default Ingress resources is annoying, but I guess once it's going and you've got everything set up, it's nice. But I also want to be able to bring my own Ingress controller because I definitely prefer Nginx Ingress over the whatever is that I've deployed with Courier. But Courier also works well. Yeah, I'm also excited to see where else I can use these technologies because I think it would be very valuable. Like our own II stuff could run a few of these technologies. All of them actually run on ARM as well.
That they do. My laptop is ARM. I've been trying to figure out. I was really surprised to ring up his VMware virtual something. Oracle's VirtualBox is not run on it yet, but I was able actually to bring up Ubuntu and Silverblue on ARM.
This one.
Oh yeah, this guy. I was very impressed that it sort of worked. You can't do the kernel things for like it's very, very beta. Yeah. You can't do the kernel things to do the shared volumes and all the more advanced stuff, and I look forward to that coming to fruition. But it was really cool to just have. It was some really cool. Some friends of mine I've known for many, many years. They have Macs, but they do not use Mac at all. They turn their computer on and they run VMware and they run. I think they use Silverblue and Red Hat, and that's it. They no idea. They don't even create anything in the UI for a Mac. It's a Linux box to them, but all the hardware interaction happens over VirtualBox.
Is it smooth for them?
So they realized they've been doing this for about 15 years.
As a bit.
Not like, ooh, this is the cool thing. They're just like, oh, I gotta have a Mac. All right, well, fine. We're just gonna go VirtualBox and I'm back on my Linux.
Interesting. Yeah. Pros and cons, I'm sure. But
I'm sure. I want to invite. His name is Wayne. Wayne. We'll have to invite Wayne back for a Thursday. He was the guy that came and did the pair with us with all his friends from Austin. Mm-hmm. He sold me a Camaro for $50 one time. Wild guy.
Times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Kirk. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Did you want to see any of my KVM stuff, or are we out of time?
Absolutely.
Bring it on. I'd like to do. I'll give you a longer session on that. I think I was inviting you to come do it, and then I think we just kind of got sidetracked by it because Caleb and I have been dealing a lot with Google and all these other people working together to coordinate to support the Knative project. So it's come to the forefront in our minds recently. That's more of the overseas stuff. But as far as the local New Zealand stuff, I think the Pi KVM and that stuff is more of what we can do to fruit things locally. And let's dig into it for a moment here. But I'd love to actually give you much more time to dig into that in a slower pace. And maybe even have you come in.
Definitely.
Because with the Pi KVM, we can talk about it for a little bit, but I think what would be really cool is for you to come in and let's hook the Pi KVMs up to the ATEMs and show them what they're displaying on their HDMI outputs and walk through more of a, maybe even come in not during the meetup, but let's kind of figure out how to make it work well, so we can kind of pre-script that meetup.
Yeah, definitely. We can do more depth later. All good. What
are the highlights for what
do you want to give my Kirk mobile presenter access? And I'll see if
I'll let Caleb drive that, or tell me where to click.
Actually, I should probably just be able to go
buttons to hit.
Turn my camera on, and I want the back one.
Where is it?
Uno momento, por favor.
Alright, so this is a quick thing. This is my noisy background, which is going to stop in a sec. It's printing some brackets. But this is my...
There we go.
Oh. You're live streaming.
This is my little test bench. There's a few cables in. But so at the moment, we've got this, which is DIY
normal Raspberry Pi with
HDMI capture, and then OTG USB port, which comes down and plugs in here, and it has the positive 5-volt positive wires chopped so that it doesn't feed back, and then we've got the power supply coming in by GPIO.
Yeah, those devices there, I remember those.
And then I did end up getting a developer model version of the official hat that just sort of works with a USB-C power supply.
Yep.
And then KVM stuff on the top there.
Set up so many of those.
We have 10? We have 10 here at II. I've lost the little riser card connector. I have the top piece, but I've lost that one little daughter card on the edge. I'm one short of those.
You just need the USB-C to USB-C.
I can guess we could just bypass it.
Well, I think isn't it just? Well, I guess it must be more than just a USB-C cable.
Oh.
Well, it's because it's a riser, right? So all the pins going along that side. But as far as like that connection, it's primarily there to drive through the USB-C connector up to the top, so that you can do that USB OTG on the somewhere on the top.
Because that's the power for boards.
Yep.
And then also data. Yeah. So hopefully, the cable will replace it. Like there's a but yeah, like this is mostly what we sort of have in our racks. These are our two PCs that are clustered, and then our two Pi that fit together, and then they're using ribbon cable into this custom board that sort of controls everything, including our depth sensors.
The actual sensors themselves, man, those are massive.
And then this thing here, we set up, and this runs Pico, as you might be able to see there, and then underneath, you can't see it, but underneath there's a Raspberry Pi. And what that does is the Pico feeds via USB serial constant depth data from the LiDAR sensors, and then
the sensors are plugged directly into the Pi Zero, and the Pi Zero is driving the data over serial to the Raspberry Pi 4.
It's a Pico, not a Pi Zero.
There's two Pico, so there's a Pico and a Pi Zero. Gotcha.
And that Pico and then a Pi 4 underneath the board.
Sorry, a Pico and a Pi 4, not a Pi Zero. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. And then it runs a Mosquito thing, which the serial data gets fed into Mosquito queue, and then Grafana reads the queue and shows a timeline data, basically meaning you get a live feed of, or live negative feed of the depth data.
So awesome to see this stuff flowing into the real world through real interfaces over Kubernetes.
And so we did that to watch a truck right underneath, so we could see what it's supposed to look like, which was quite cool. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That is really awesome.
And then if you give my other user control, then I can.
We're doing that now.
You
have full control.
There you go.
It's all you, bro.
I will screen this one.
I
might have to say
video feed is so. Should I stop sharing?
No, you're sharing. It's going through it.
I know, but it's because my video feed here, I can change. Oh yeah, sorry. Easy one. And we can turn off the.
So have I got? What can you see? How do I see what you see?
Oh, it's so
there it is.
Although you want to share his full screen.
So obviously that's BIOS, which via a web browser, which is something that you don't normally get. I can scroll around. I can, during boot, push buttons, F12ing. Hopefully it comes back. Okay. I know it.
It's amazing.
And I have done this before where I can.
For a hardware device.
Say what?
It's amazing having a software interface for a hardware device.
Yeah, hardcore. It's not new. Obviously, all servers have interfaces that let you do this, but doing it for desktops and whatever you want.
No, this is so generic and lovely, and the external. This is so cool.
Yeah, and then you can mount an ISO and boot off it and load up the OS. I'm planning my next two PC builds that I do. I'm going to do it like this and plug this KVM and load it up from there. And so, yeah, we can see. I can see what it does when it boots. See what it does when it shuts down. All the good stuff.
Is 1 frame per second your default? What's your normal flow?
No, it's bouncing around. It's usually, I think, stable at 5.
It's 1 FPS because there was nothing changing on the screen. I got it.
Yeah, that'll be it. I think it peaked at 20. So
cool. That's reasonable.
but it's pretty smooth.
And it's 1080p? I didn't think
Yep,
I
1080p.
didn't think the capture device did 1080p on the Raspberry Pi.
The only thing that
The CSG ones don't, or the CSI Bridge ones don't. Always.
So the Pi hats that we have, are they CSI Bridge ones, so they're lower res, and the one you're doing isn't, and is somehow feeding back into it via 1080p as a USB camera?
Yeah, so that was the USB HDMI capture device.
Yeah, that was the custom Pi you did is able to do the 1080p feed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think my V3.2 hat is able to as well. So yeah, I know.
V3 hat. See, I don't know what version of hats do we have.
the latest as of
Printed on them. You probably will have V3 ones because that's the ones they just shipped.
So you just got a new V3 brand new Pi hat that they just shipped, and we got ours before Christmas, and so they won't do 1080p.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not willing to commit to that, but I mean, I guess.
Grab it. I got a box of them here.
One thing that they don't do is audio. I know that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Someday maybe.
Oh, I've got it. Yeah, it's on, so I can go. Hang on, if I go. Here's what I prepared earlier. Yeah, so the one that I have is doing 720. But the custom one that I have is doing 1080.
A lot to open, and my brain's a bit tired.
Whoa, it's a bit fuzzy.
Focus.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to look inside the. It's inside. It'll be inside the case. If I turn my camera back on. So if we have a look, it's upside down.
Got one somewhere.
I don't know if you can see, but like on the board there, it's got 3.2.
Right click on this video feed to make it full screen.
Oh, it's upside down, but
Let's come by sometime and let's figure a way to hook your rig into my streaming deck, and we'll play.
yeah, definitely. But I was saying, if you look at my desktop thing, this is the hat one, and it is 720. So
That's
it's the
good.
CSI Bridge is only 720, whereas my do-it-yourself HDMI capture card can do 1080.
So even with the
I think it can even do
V3
4K,
hat,
but-
it's still 720p.
Yeah, with my hat, which uses a CSI Bridge instead, it does 720p.
What does CSI stand for in this case? It's not container storage interface, that's for sure.
Camera serial interface.
Oh,
Yeah,
Maybe.
that sounds right.
yeah, serial will do it. It's just pretty low level.
Kirk, let's plan some time together next week before Thursday, if it works out. If not, we'll just wing it and have fun.
And I'll bring some
I don't want
stuff.
you to stress about it. But this looks pretty
No.
cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty chilled about it. But yeah, no, it was good fun. And so the next thing, I haven't obviously set up any of the ATX power stuff.
Yeah.
Part of that is my PCs don't have an ATX.
I have
Pin out
about
to plug into,
16
so-
computers here that all have ATX connectors if we want to come
There you
play
go.
and do that in real time at some point. And I've got also 10 Raspberry Pi KVMs.
Yeah.
Good.
So we got enough equipment. It's the expertise that we have not spent the time on that you have dug into. So
Yeah. All right. Cool. So yeah, and I found a 3D printable USB converter bracket thing for the power sockets.
oh good.
So it's got a 2 little pin thing that you can plug into. Basically, it converts a USB port into you just punch down into the GPIOs.
Oh, that's so.
But in theory, you could power a Raspberry Pi.
You're teasing me about it.
Yeah.
Come hang out.
Theoretically, you could power a Raspberry Pi off a battery bank.
Yep. No, that's
And then do
gonna
it that
work
way.
well.
So close. So close.
So close. Come hang out. I think it's. I've got to
Yeah.
order food for the family and start the evening routine.
Yes. Sure.
But do reach
Next week,
out for
probably.
next week or the following week or whatever. I would love to hang out without a rush to use the cabling and stuff you found to power the Pi KVMs to network boot via ATX to turn them on and off. Because imagine for the moment where there's actually a timer going off before I get up that turns on my data center that runs the rig here that I do all my broadcasting from because it's all Linux based and I'll run out Pi KVMs to start the day. The cluster is actually off except for the one knative based ingress point that uses the knative ingress init controller to go through and send a controller message to the Pi KVM to turn the computers on in order to get to the point where the network boot and serve the ingress controller for the website that is the Hack Batch.
Incredible.
Next week, tune in for how complex can you make your static website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a static website.
Yeah, we're going to be deploying these to our tele stations
Sweet.
so that when the PCs poop themselves, we've got a way to be able to have a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're in
smart.
all the good ways, my friend. We definitely should hang out some more.
Yeah, all right. I'll is Telegram the best way?
All the ways are fine. Whatever way you find that reaches me, I
All the
will
ways.
respond.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll keep in touch. And
I
just
like it.
for reference, obviously I'll be in touch first, but is that going to be at the Hack Batch?
I like it. We'll see you in person sometime soon. I think with the
All right.
the low attendance, it's okay for one person to show up at the Hack Batch and do the things, and whoever shows up online, they can show up if they do. We'll
Sounds
stream to record the show, but we can do the few of us that are showing up in person.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we'll see you then, my friend. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Good to hear from you.
Yep.
Have a good rest of the week.
Bye.
Cheers, you too. Bye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.